The first case we're gonna be talking about is more on the bizarre side, and I think you can already tell from the title of the case itself that is the 1984 Curry murder. Police first got involved in 1987 when an informant tipped off to investigators that a man by the name of Ayakano Marimutu was brutally chopped up into pieces before getting cooked in a pot of curry. Now, this specific detail was what made investigators understandably a bit skeptical, but nonetheless they decided to do a bit of research on Marimutu, and yes, indeed, Marimutu was a missing person. He was reported missing by his wife after Marimutu failed to come home from a trip to Genting, and the police decided to launch an investigation. The police eventually arrested his wife, his mother, his brothers, and their wives. When interrogated, they first denied knowing any knowledge on what happened to Marimutu, but after some time, they gave more and more info. Allegedly, what happened was that one of the brothers led Marimutu to a church that one of them was working at before tying him up, brutally killing him with an iron rod, and then chopping him up into pieces, and then cooked him into curry along with rice and spices, and then disposing the rest of the body parts in black plastic bags. Now, when the suspect tells a story like that, a few eyebrows must have been raised because they got it straight from the horse's mouth, right? They straight up confessed to what they did. So they must be in jail, right? Well, no, because due to the insufficient evidence, and the evidence being that neither the body parts nor the murder weapon was found, that meant that the prosecution couldn't really prosecute them because there wasn't enough hard evidence to back up this confession. So they were granted an acquittal, but it wasn't a full acquittal, it was more like a half acquittal, which basically meant that should future evidence pop up, they would still be tried in court. Afterwards, all but 3 of the brothers were rearrested for some reason. I couldn't find out the reason because Newspaper SG is the best website ever. But anyways, they were held in detention for around 4 years before they were truly released. Later on in 1995, the family would sue the Straits Times for using suggestive languages that framed them for the murder, but the Straits Times won this case. The reasons we're going to get into later. Coming on to a few theories of what might have happened to the curry man was that Marimutu was alleged to be a very violent man who would frequently, let's say, abuse his family members. So there was a motive for them to want to see Marimutu to be disposed of, literally. The second theory was that this whole thing was just a hoax made for whatever reason, since the only word that we can get, the only word that we can believe or we can trust is this convenient informant that somehow knew the specific details of the murder, and the word of the police that one of them confessed to what they did. And okay, here's what I don't get, right? When they were released, did the family try to debunk what was said about them? Because I know they did try to sue the Straits Times for using suggestive languages and all that, but the reason why the court ruled in favor of the Straits Times was that the Straits Times used nothing but facts for this case. So by facts, does that imply that the police confession was true? Or is it Also, what was the motive of this informant? How did he know the specific details that perfectly matched the police confession, and then afterwards this confession was not true, but then the newspaper says that it's true? What? Okay, I don't know if like my researching skills just sucks or if this case is just really confusing. It's probably the first option, but I'm sorry if I've made you confused, because I'm also really confused as well. Also, even if this whole thing was a hoax, right, my man Marimutu is still missing, so I feel like it's kind of mean for the public to just sweep it under the rug saying, oh, it's just a hoax, man, when there's still a missing person in this case. Did like nobody tried to figure out what happened to him? Did he leave Singapore? What's going on? Okay, maybe I'm being a bit too harsh on the investigators since this alleged crime did happen like 3 years ago, so there might be a few setbacks. And yeah, Marimutu is still missing today. The case is unsolved. Okay, let's go on to the next case.